startup venture facilitation from PIT. So last week we had a general discussion on the policy, the innovation and startup policy, which has been launched recently, and at least about 4 faculty members, they've also shared their experience of starting a business or associating with a startup. So in that sequel, we thought it would be very, very appropriate to bring Raghuttama Rao. Mr. Raghuttama Rao is the CEO of Gopal Krishnan Deshpande Center at IIT Madras. So he has kindly consented to be with us today and share his experience of motivating faculty to consider a lab to market transition. Although it's a very, very tough proposition, Mr. Raghu has been quite successful in the last couple of years in motivating many faculty members to pursue the path of entrepreneurship. Not only at IIT Madras, now they have also moved beyond and started training very many faculty members from many campuses across India. So let me also take the privilege of giving a formal introduction to him. So Mr. Raghuttama Rao, fondly called Raghu, is the Chief Executive Officer of Gopal Krishnan Deshpande Center at IIT Madras. He was formerly Chief Mentor of ICRA, a credit rating and analytical firm in South Asia and a subsidiary of Moody's. His last executive role was as MD and CEO of IMAX. IMAX is a management consulting business founded by him as a subsidiary of ICRA, which has an operating footprint in over 20 countries. He was a member of ICRA's startup team in 1991 and has helped develop many areas of ICRA, including credit rating, management consulting, analytics, information technology, and research. Raghu has wide consulting experience in areas of public policy, risk strategy, and capacity building. Prior to ICRA, Raghu has also worked with Larsen & Toubro Limited and Maruti Suzuki Limited. Raghu has a postgraduate diploma in management from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and is a Bachelor of Technology in ME, from Mechanical Engineering from IIT Madras. He is a qualified management accountant and was a Fulbright scholar at Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, USA. He is also part of several think tank and policy initiatives, including the CII Center of Excellence on Startups. So with this rich experience, I'm sure he will be in a position to add some more value to the faculty members who joined here, who are seriously considering the path of entrepreneurship. So thanks a lot, Raghu, for joining us this morning, and the floor is yours. Please take it from here. We are looking forward to your session.
Thank you, Bala, and thank you for a generous introduction, and a formal good morning to all of you from PIT. I also have a couple of my colleagues, just briefly mention them. I have Rajiv Jain and A.V. Anand, who are very actively involved with me in building this ecosystem. That's the way I would like to describe this. What I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about IITs and GDCs, who are more focused on GDC, IIT Madras, in terms of what we've done in the last 10 years, and very quickly in translating research to let's say enterprise or impact, and then focus on the incubate program, for which we are actually inviting applications as we talk. And the call for applications is open. I don't know how many have come in, but we have increasingly, we would like more participation from VIT than we've had in the last couple of cohorts. And I'll talk a little bit about the program in its mechanics, its structure, what benefits are, and we'll leave time for a Q&A. So I'll talk for about half an hour, maybe a little bit more, and we'll leave time for Q&A because that's always more interesting to get the dialogue going. And if you want to shoot beyond 12, I'm okay with it. So shoot yourself. So we'll make this a little more flexible. So permit me to share my screen, which I'm going to do. And Just let me know if this is visible to you.
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
Visible? Thank you.
The screen is visible, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So when we talk of venture creation opportunities, what I'm referring to here is not any kind of venture, but in a context of an academic university and a large one, and multidisciplinary one like yours, like VIT, and let's say even IIT in question, and many others. We're talking of seeing, a lot of research happens, scientific research in particular. How do you bring that to the market for impact? We don't do that in enough measure in India, and I think that's really what we are trying to do here. So I'll talk very quickly about IIT-M and GDC, and if it's a repetition, please bear with me, and then I'll talk about the incubator online, and then we'll open it up for questions. So as an academic institution, IIT Madras is about 60 years, just 60 plus, right? And my suspicion is we are a little smaller than VIT. That's a sense I get in my discussions, and maybe same number of students or similar, but faculty, I think yours is more than 1,000. And we have about 16 odd disciplines, which have not changed over time, maybe one or two additions. But an emphasis in IIT Madras that I see for the last 20 years and accentuated for the last 10 years is we have gone from undergrad education to postgraduate, which means more emphasis getting to research. As a country, I think India chose wrong, in my view, wrong, by after independence, putting research out of academic institutions, largely into standalone institutions, which are government sponsored. Nothing wrong with that, but I think mixing teaching with academics enriches the experience. We've heard several faculty from renowned colleges internationally vouching for that rich interplay between the two. And I think that correction is helping, I can say from first-hand knowledge at IIT Madras. And the last 10 years, we are seeing a very distinct shift towards translational research and transformational, more importantly, transformational research. How do you actually impact society with it? And that's something I think many universities, and I suspect even VIT, would start looking at, because the problems that we have in India, nobody's going to solve. Industry is not capable of doing it alone. Government is really looking at expertise. Academia has a big role to play. So we have about 40 centers of excellence. Besides the disciplines like mechanical engineering, computer science, and so on, we have about 40 centers of excellence. They are largely funded by industry, collaboration, and or government, and they have acquitted themselves fairly well. So a lot of research happens there, a lot of sponsored projects happen there. And my understanding is today, many of these, there are about 15 of this year, there are another 2.5 times, there are about 50 centers of excellence that are coming up at IIT. Many of them are actually in collaboration with many other, like CVIT is a 5G test bed for India. And as far as I know, there are at least 20 colleges, institutions involved in this. Similarly, the machine tools and manufacturing and many others. So all of these really are becoming hotbeds of collaboration between academia and industry, and international and government funding coming in. And I suspect that's the way things will shape up. I've also taken a shot at putting down in one slide, what the entrepreneurial, let's say, innovation ecosystem is. So the way this works, I mean, I've kind of stylized it, so it doesn't seem like that on the ground, but you have research, an ideation that happens here, right here, to the left of this. And then you have incubation here. We have 4 incubators and 5 incubators and counting on campus, right? This is the business, bio incubator. This is the rural technology one. Actually, IIT started with this in mid 90s. There's the health tech one. Wilgrow is an external one. There are a couple of other labs which are almost like incubators, like the electric vehicle one, like the machine tool one, and there's an agri-tech. There's even a battery, I can't call it an incubator, but they work with about 10, 12 startups. And then there's a catch-all incubator called the incubation cell. And we have an ecosystem where these incubators work, which is located at something called the Research Park, which I think now the experience of IIT has been so good, IIT Madras has been so good, that the government of India is setting up 20 research parks. And I suspect if VIT is doing it, it will be terrific. If you're not doing it, please do it quickly. Because I think the way a research park can be structured to get academia into implementation, impact, dialogue with the external world is tremendous. Talk a little bit. So what happens here is on the left-hand side, you have ideas and research emanating from all of these. And there's a bunch of student activities that go on. Every new faculty who comes to IIT gets a budget. The budget varies from 5 lakh to 20 lakhs, I'm told. Just do something of your kind. That really is, some of them end up in very useful work, sometimes academic work, which is fine, sometimes transformational work. We have an IP cell, which has become active. We have just crossed 1,000 plus registrations of patents at IIT Madras. And the idea is to do about 200 per year. And then, of course, there's accent on how do you monetize that. So there's a student incubator, there's a innovation center. I think all of these things are there in every college now. And GDC is the unique thing that has come about as a bridge between, the research labs and the incubators to see how can ideas from the research lab, this is hard. I think Bala spoke about it at the beginning. This is hard to do. Ideas are easy. Ideas can be whipped up quickly, but to build a business that sustains is very, very hard. And they take very different skills. And in recognition of that is what GDC was set up, that just having an incubator is not enough. As a country, we have 500 plus incubators, I'm told. Good for the country. But I think that's not enough. There's a lot of work, pump priming that needs to happen for ideas to flow from the labs and from where they originate to this. And I think we'll talk about that today. So the IITM Research Park, I'll just spend a little bit about this for a minute. You see, I talked about the research centers, and we have so many of them. They are incentivized to work with industry. We have centers of excellence. And then we have companies who have come into about 100 plus, about 200 plus companies have come in there. And then we have young minds, who work. And I think this experiment is leading to outcomes that we have not envisaged. And I think right now, even as we talk, we're figuring out how do we grow this pool of interested companies, interested investors, interested mentors, the larger ecosystem of industry like TIE and CII and all the early seed angel investors, and of course our faculty and students and startups. It's a melting pot of ideas. And then when you throw in support like legal, business planning, angel investing, and all of that, you start getting outcomes which are very favorable. And I think we are in that heady state right now. And that's the reason I think government has also, expanded this research park concept to many other STEM colleges. I will now just jump into GDC, which is really what is it that we are trying to do here at the Gopalakrishnan Deshpande Center. So the genesis, so we are not very old. We are about 4 years old. So we were set up as a Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at IIT Madras, based on alumni grants from 3 illustrious people, Dr. Gururat Deshpande, Mrs. Jayashree Deshpande, and Chris Gopalakrishnan. And I'm sure many of you have heard or even interacted with these people. The concept behind this was, okay, we have a lot of things going in academia and incubation and so on. Is there something else that needs to get done? And that insight came from what the US government started to do post the global financial crisis in 2010 and 11, and where Dr. Deshpande was a very active participant. And he said, maybe we can do that in India also to good measure. And GDC therefore was an experiment towards that. But our mandate, the last line here below, says that although we are based out of IIT Madras, our mandate and charter is to work with all STEM colleges who are willing to pitch in their cart with us. So we are not restricted to IT Madras, as you will see shortly. So our mission really is to see, we're not looking at startups, we're not looking at investing, we're not looking at all of that. We are looking primarily to build capability and mindset change in academic and research institutions amongst faculty and researchers and students, of course. So if you have a mindset to research, you want to kind of commercialize your research, what do you need to do with this? And create impact. The whole premise is having research, making innovation in the lab is a very different, important, but not complete. It's necessary, but not sufficient to build a to create sustainable impact. You need a vehicle. It could be a startup. You could have a licensing procedure. You could have open innovation. There are a variety of vehicles to reach innovation from the lab to the marketplace. But we are looking at startups because startups can scale. Startups can get, can be bought by other larger vehicles like they do. And then they can create impact at greater scale than what labs can do in small pilot missions. The thinking of academic faculty in STEM colleges is largely to say, make the technology work, and I think the problem is done. And we'd like to believe, and our experience now with 200 startup shows that this is invariably the case. There's a big gulf between making technology work in the lab and scaling it to a sustainable enterprise or a startup. And that is the core purpose of GDC. How do you bring that mindset and knowledge change and capability within faculty? We also help improve odds of success. Through the individual startups, we are able to show that once you can de-risk them significantly at the startup stage, there's much greater chance for them to succeed and therefore assimilate better with the environment. And all of this, the fundamental belief is, we are there as outsiders, mentors, coaches, whatever you are. A faculty can mold minds, and they do. When a faculty designs a project in a lab, teaches a course in a college, you can influence hundreds of people. When you design a project and pick your team, and in a manner that this project can sustain, go beyond the lab, go beyond the academic course, go beyond the grade, reach the market, win collaboration, that's the mindset change that faculty can really engineer. We would like to leverage the species of faculty and researchers who are in that unique position to influence young students who don't know what failing means, and therefore they're willing to give it their all. And I think that's the mindset that we think can bring maximum leverage to this process of innovation in our country. And that's the mission of GDC. How do we create this transformational mindset to become more entrepreneurial? Besides teaching and research, there's a very important capability and responsibility, I would add, amongst faculty to do this. And that's what GDC is trying to do. This is a busy slide, and what it does is it shows our playing arena. It shows the lab on the left-hand side here, right? And it shows the marketplace. It shows the incubator and to the marketplace on the right-hand side, right? So this is the spectrum of what happens from lab to market. And that's where GDC operates, as we say here, right? So typically ideas are born. So it's kind of shown in a very linear, systematic manner. Ideas are born, prototypes are built, they're tested, then there's some market testing to be done, is it needed, then you go to an incubator, and then you scale up, and then you raise money, and then you become $1 billion unicorn. So it's very nicely put out here. We know that it doesn't play out like this in the marketplace. This is non-linear. However, that said, the sequence that's put out here, the idea has to come before a minimum viable product is built, has to come before a product is built, has to come before a customer. So the sequence broadly pays out. And why we have put out this in this detail is to show a fundamental fallacy in our academic innovation. What that means is most faculty and researchers, when they develop a lab in an idea, build a prototype, it works, they're excited. Many of them want to take it to market. They actually jump from here to the incubator. Many colleges and universities now have an incubator attached to them. Faculty are given prominence and priority, as it should be. But what happens is there's a lot of important preparatory steps, mindset changing steps, knowledge to be gained, insights to be gained before you can start to scale a venture and become successful. That is not given adequate importance. And there are 3 steps here, which I put on here as customer discovery, which is really looking at proof of market. Is there a market for what you're doing? And if there is a market, how do you assess that market? It's not simple to say that, look, there's a water shortage. So if I build something that converts sewage water to good water at a price 1/10 that of the US or Israel, there's a market. That conclusion, broadly right, conceptually, but not practically, and definitely not in business terms. Definitely not as an investment proposition. India is the diabetic capital of the world. I can make a device which can, diagnose and prevent and treat diabetes. It should be a hit in the marketplace. Broadly correct, conceptually right, practically not so sure. What does it take to do that? Idea on the ground is a very different proposition from making it work in the lab. So that is what testing of minimum viable product, and there are more nuances to this than is conventionally discussed. This is a subject which is not very well understood in STEM colleges. What is the importance of a business model? How does that impact innovation? How does that make a difference between success and failure? How does that tie up with your technological innovation? All that needs to be thought through before you can actually start scaling up in an incubator. Incubators are commercial animals, even if they are not for profit, right? They look to, because they're in a high risk game. Their resources are to be gained to maximize the success of entities that they select. Here, the success rate is 1:10. 90% startups, unfortunately, will not make it to the success. So they have to be very careful. So they choose their 10 very carefully so that at least one succeeds. At this rate, it is 1 in 100 or even worse. The failure rate is very high. So 1 to 100 to 1 to 10 is the transformation that we are trying to make. And that's what we will talk about the Incubate program in some detail. We've been working at this for about 4 years now. And we've done about 18 cohorts. We work in cohorts. The 18th cohort is running right now, 18 cohorts. And roughly about 8 to 10 teams per cohort. So that we have done about 150 odd teams, startup teams. And all 155 teams have been transformed. It's not our feedback. It's not our view. Teams have told us that in writing and video. 175 faculty have come. So which means you have more than one faculty sometimes per team. And I'll try, if there's time, I'll show you a couple of faculty views per videos. We have gone beyond IIT Madras. So in this 155 teams, something like 40 teams or 45 teams have been from IIT Madras. The rest of them, so more than 100 teams have come from outside us. Increasingly now when we do a cohort, I find 80% teams are from outside IIT Madras. So clearly, this program has started getting traction in the marketplace, right? Quite quickly, the teams that have done earlier cohorts, 2 years, 3 years, about 2/3 of the teams that go through us actually find traction in the marketplace. Another 10-15% find traction after our program, having learned what to do. 10-15% go back to the lab and say, either we don't have a good idea, we are ahead of time, or we have to redo our idea, right? We have to reboot. The ones that have gone ahead have raised money, right? And we think the feedback that we've got from angels and seed investors is that they're very gratified to see the kind of focus and shall I say, dedicated path to market, reaching the market that our incubatees, that's the wrong word, but let's say our alumni teams have found after going through our programs. Many of them have gone to Y Combinators and Stanford programs. So that's again a measure that they're able to leverage much more, right? This is a team, Neodox is a team from IIT Bombay. They've raised pre-seed, they've raised subsequent money. There's a team that came to us to do build flexible, housing for construction workers. And in the COVID boom, they have suddenly become a transit hospital company. They set up transit hospitals and clinics. And I'm told that they have orders worth 100 crores and more today. They don't know how to execute. They're saying no to business. Very happy accidents for them. This is a team again from IIT Madras. It's gone to IIT Gandhinagar to incubate, which has just closed its seed round funding from the Indian Angels Network. Very marquee investors have got into it. It's a handheld device to help the agri sector. So our domains are, we are domain agnostic. Companies, startup come to us from a bewildering range of ideas, and we are excited about it. Now, I've spoken a lot about the startup ecosystem, what we're trying to do, but it's important to understand we are not an incubator. Right? Bala here runs an incubator, one of the oldest and most mature incubators in the country, and there are many others. And we want to work with incubators because we think we build a bridge between the lab. Deep tech startups cannot be reached from the lab. They cannot reach incubators or seed capital, seed investors. There's a fundamental bridge to be built, which takes them over a couple of valleys of death. And that's really what we do. We also now work in incubators and with incubators to help them get stronger at their game. After all, they are also in a risky game where just 10%, 1 out of 10 succeed. And that becomes 2 out of 10. And that becomes 3 out of 10. That's something that we are trying to see how that can be done. So we are not a business accelerator. We fit into an ecosystem. We don't consult or provide advice. We don't invest. We don't seek revenues. We are completely philanthropic. As of now, we raise money through grants and we try and make the system more capable. That's really our structure and what we work. I'm going to dive straight into the Incubate program and tell something, because faculty here, some of you have applied, I'm aware, some of you have already applied to us and are experiencing, and hopefully more of you will come to us. What the Incubate program achieves, and I don't know if this is news to you, the biggest reason that startups fail, and I'm confining not just to deep tech startups, but to anybody, is not because their technology or science does not work. That's what most people think. The product doesn't work. The software didn't work. There were glitches. It didn't deliver. That's not. Most people fix that. We are smart enough for that. The biggest reason why startups fail, as you can see, international data and Indian data very clearly shows that the biggest reason is startups are solving problems that nobody has. Let me repeat that. You're solving imaginary problems. You get so tied up, particularly the deep tech startups, you get fascinated, fall in love with your technology, that, that's the best thing that could happen to Earth if this were to be brought to the marketplace. And you're not paying sufficient attention to, well, are there enough people who have the problem pressing enough for them to buy this or use this technology and pay for it? That becomes the biggest stumbling block and actually seal for most startups to fail. So how do you address this risk? Right? One, if 99 out of 100 people are getting this wrong, there's execution risk and all that, technology risk, all that is there. But the biggest risk is this. And facetious as it sounds, that's a reality. And that's the reason why the Incubate program is structured around this activity called customer discovery, where we are looking at, is there a proof for value? We are looking for, is there evidence? Is there evidence that people will value this and pay for it? Right? And therefore, you see that loop here, go and no go. That simply says that the principle of lean startup is start lean, don't spend money. Look, you don't have enough money to spend, so don't spend even whatever little you have, don't fritter it away. And look for evidence that there is a problem to solve. So what is evidence? What is the problem? What is sufficient number? What is a good market size? All of that is what the customer discovery exercise does and tries to make people more entrepreneurial, right? There are risks involved in this. How do you overcome this risk? How do you overcome lack of information? All those are entrepreneurial skills that you need to build. Even faculty, who are doing research, they need to acquire those skills. Even if they're not becoming businessmen, they're becoming entrepreneurial in enabling other people who want to become entrepreneurs to go down that path. And that's the faculty mindset change that we're talking about. So the go, no go loop here is basically telling them, look, this is a problem worth solving. Let's go ahead with it and then build put resources in it, build the minimum viable product, build a business, raise seed capital, go to an incubator. Incubators are valuable assets, that we have in this country. Don't go take frivolous ideas and clog up that space and figure out 2 years later what you could have figured out in 8 weeks of a good customer discovery exercise. So what do? We invite teams to apply to us, not individual faculty or people with wild ideas. We want people with a proof of concept to come to us. We need 1 or 2 faculty leads who have done that research and can say, look, I think I know what I'm talking about. It's worked. There's some proof of concept. Technology is not that big a risky. I have my arms around it. Even if I have not got it to work, I know it can work. We want 3 to 5 entrepreneurs. We call them entrepreneur leads. If the faculty wants to become an entrepreneur, you're welcome. But usually faculty want to stay on the technology side, do their research. They have their role cut out, right? So we want, they're typically students. They could be PhD scholars. They could be UG students. They could even be alumni. It doesn't matter to us. They could even be from outside. It doesn't matter. We just want good chemistry and a good understanding of what the problem that's being worked upon between the faculty and the entrepreneur leads. So, and then we provide a business mentor. We have trained, accredited business mentors who have experience in either building a company or a startup or having run a profit center, running large companies. So they know exactly, what kind of risks are there in the marketplace, how a business is built and so on. And so this is a good team. This is a well-balanced team that has technology depth and expertise, which has the entrepreneurial zeal, from the young people in their 20s, maybe even 30s. And we have the experience of a business mentor. That makes a team, and we take about 10 teams to a cohort, right? That's what is a cohort for us. And this is the program structure, from left to right. Here is where we start. This onboarding session, we have actually shifted this by about 2 weeks now, so that teams have told us they need a little bit more time to prepare as they get into the program. So ours is an 8-week boot camp. This is not a training program. This is not a program where you come and have a siesta. This is a boot camp. A boot camp has an army connotation. There's a sense of urgency. Get going with it. Result oriented. Right? So this is very intensive. And the way the program works is we have about 25 hours of classroom instruction, which is over 2 days here in the beginning, online workshops 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and we have a midpoint week. Across terms, it's about 25 hours of classroom instruction, maybe 30 hours. And then you have these weekly interludes, 1 week between 2 workshops initially, and then 7 weeks, where the heart of the program, after you learn some initial skills, a little bit more of what I've spoken about here in some more practical form, you've got to go and the teams have to go and conduct 100 discussions with strangers, people whom you don't know. Typically, people who have built an enterprise have done this in the cocoon, comfortable environment of their labs, their offices, their campuses. We now ask you to go out and meet people whom you have never met. So if you're building an internet-based sensor for, let's say, measuring temperature and other process parameters, go to a factory, a cement factory or a fertilizer factory. You probably never visited one. Go and figure out who would need it there, figure out why would they need it, and so on. And these are just not technical discussion. These are for you to figure out who is your customer, how do you reach that customer, how do you reach this person who will make a decision. It's all a part of your entrepreneurial training for the team. And believe me, teams get humbled by this exercise and challenge. Most teams have not met even a single customer in their lives. And they really get a slap in their face, when they go with their fantastic technology. Mostly people get a jolt, a 220-volt jolt, saying that this is not what we need. This is what we want. And then they find that there's a complete gulf between what they're building and what the market wants. And how do you make this transformation is what this program is a very structured way, but a very open format for you to make this transition. So I'll talk a little bit. I'm not getting into the program in very great details. It's 8 weeks. There are webinars. There are office hours. All of that. By the time you reach the closing workshop, most teams, if not all, have got transformed. whether the venture they find is positive, whether the market feedback is positive or negative, they could transfer. And I think that's what is the big difference of this program. Our program culture, as I told you, is bootcamp style. We are very direct and challenging. Even in my tone, you will find I'm not very polite to you. I'm very challenging. I would say you give you respect for what you are because you deserve it. You're experts in your field. But the market will not. Market is for unforgiving, and we want to simulate that environment in our feedback to you. Respectful, but very direct, and a little under your skin to kind of provoke you a bit to start thinking about what could go wrong. We don't teach. It's a flipped classroom. We expect you to learn outside. Read up outside, then come and discuss and learn. And that expands and leverages the time that we spend together. And we learn by doing, not by hearing and by rote. So you will really learn by thinking. And that's the transformational shift we have. So we have roles for faculty. What do faculty play? Right? All of you are faculty, I understand. You have your entrepreneurial leads. What's the balance of work, responsibilities, and learning? What do the business mentors do? And what do instructors from GDC do? So those are things that we can talk about in the Q&A a little bit. These are some of our alumni teams. I'm not going into detail. If you go to our website, you will find some of these have videos and stories about them. I'll not talk about it. Maybe some of these you know. We have a cohort that's starting in December 20th. So onboards, actual cohort begins in January. Applications are open, and I don't know how many applications have come in. You still have this weekend to go. If you are keen, if you have an idea, go ahead and apply. And we will obviously have a selection procedure because we don't judge your idea from, like an incubator or an investor does. We judge it more from our suitability. I'll talk about that a little bit. But we'd like to have as many from the IT as we could. What's our requirement for applications? You have to be a science-based idea. So don't come up with an app. Don't come up with, I'm making a marketplace to, connect students to placement. Those are good ideas. Sometimes we encourage, but those are just to get colleges into the mold, into the groove. But we are excited by science-based idea. That's our mission, right? We want something that's at TRL 2 and beyond, typically, preferably TRL 3 and 4, technology readiness levels. So don't come with an engine, that says, this is water, just pour into it and it will work. Don't come up with a power plant that has a Carnot efficiency of 65%. Those kind of things don't work. So come with something that's technically feasible. You may not have it working, but you should work as a faculty lead for the technology, because we don't focus so much on the technology. We bank on you to get that done. We focus on more what is required beyond technology to make it work. We want the faculty member to be actively involved. That's a mandatory. We cannot take a team without a faculty member. And we need a minimum of 3 years. So don't come with 1, 2, 2.5. We want 3 ELs with good chemistry. Only then you can do 100 interviews. The program is very intensive. Without that commitment, without that chemistry, without that readiness, without the dedication to time, it'll be very hard to complete this program. That's what we mean. We need your commitment in full. So these are our requirements. We're not really looking at whether your idea is, how profitable it is. And we're not judging your idea. We want to build capability in this. Once you learn this, I'm sure you'll become transformational, right? So there's more and more stories on all of this on our website. I will stop here, and I know excuse me, I've taken about 40 minutes. I will stop here and open a Q&A. And if there's time, I will share a couple of views from faculty members from other colleges, what they have experienced in going through this. So I'm going to stop sharing here and open questions, doubts. I would have one request for people. 1 minute. I have one request for people. Whoever is asking a question, please turn on your video and then ask your question. Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
yes,
Raghu. It was an excellent session. So I would request the participants to unmute yourself, and as requested by Raghu, turn on your videos and post questions. Okay. Until the Priyank, please go.
Afternoon, sir. excellent information. I would like to know, is it an annual cycle of annually once it happens, incubate, or it is like twice in a year or something like that?
It's once in 6 weeks, once in 8 weeks, let's say, once in 2 months. So we have about 6 to 10 cohorts a year. We actually have another program called Inspire, that's aimed at incubators. It's a similar program, slightly different objectives. So between Incubate and Inspire, we do 10 to 12 cohorts a year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I have been rushed in my presentation, so obviously I've left gaps. I invite questions.
Yes, Dr.
Yes, sir. Rao sir, thank you so much for that information, and it's a very nice session and informative session. The way what you are explaining, it's like yes, we want to do something, and I have 2 or 3 ideas at what I want to convert in the market, but already I have patented this idea from PIT and the faculty in PIT sensitive part. I would like to join this session, and just I would like to know how we are able to create a team, because my idea is along with me, but the person who is not along with me, and we have to create the team for the coherent, how we should process this safe side. That idea shouldn't be straight, and it should have to be safe. So just suggestions.
So if I understand your question right, you have an idea. Now, I don't know what stage that idea is. Has idea got any proof of concept that it works? Probably it does. That's why you're confident. But you need a team. You need a team who want to take the risk. This is not a research project. We don't fund or invite or encourage research projects. That's not what we do. We are very clear. We are talking to people who want to set up a business that delivers value with a research-based idea. So you have to bring a team. You have to do it. We have not yet started saying, can we help? We can give you students, but that doesn't make a team. You want entrepreneurs, not students. Let me make this very clear. You want entrepreneurs. We are okay with people who want to say, I want to look at entrepreneurship, but seriously.
Yes, sir.
That is what you will have to do within your campus. That's another dialogue. How does a university like yours start creating that buzz around people wanting to go for entrepreneurship? That's a separate dialogue, and it's well worth having that. But that's a step that faculty have to do, and that's what I mean by saying faculty have to become entrepreneurial.
Yes, sir.
You're building a lab. Yeah.
Yes.
So let me just conclude. That responsibility, frankly, rests with you.
Okay, sir. Fine, sir. Nice. So another thing is that when your station will, I think approximately 8-week program is for the 2 months. So how it should have to be conducted? We have to be available physically over there, or we have to take you. That's the workshop have to be online. I don't know what's the process and how I should. Interested, and I would like to proceed.
Right. So there was some disturbance, but I think I heard your question. Our program is fully online today, 100%. You don't have to meet us if you don't want to. The closest I'll come to you is right now, and on screen. So all of us work on. Yeah, so all of us work on screen. Zoom tools and all of these are pretty good today. For the last 18 months, we have been running cohorts online, and they have worked very well. We used to run cohorts physically before the pandemic. They were good, of course, but they were difficult to do in some ways. We were finding it difficult to scale, but now we have scaled effortlessly. And therefore, we have negated the negatives or the downsides of not being able to meet people in person. And we find that those negatives are not good enough. The fidelity of the program is very good. And therefore, we work online and we intend to work online going forward. There might be some interactions we might do in person, very mildly hybrid, but essentially this will be an online course.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to discuss later. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes, good morning. So myself is Dr. Jayanta Parui from Chennai campus. I have a few questions. Can I go
Right.
ahead?
Please.
Okay, so I think I don't have any experience on startup. First of all, I would like to know if I'm going to jump into startup, how much do I have to invest?
Okay. I will answer your question in two parts. The first
Yes.
part is not a question you asked. Of the 150 plus faculty who came to us, more than 2/3 faculty have tried their hands at entrepreneurship for the first time. They were wanting to do what they've never thought about, whatever it is. They were looking at it first time. So you're in good company, number one. Second, you have to invest no money, but a lot of your time. About 20% of your time in some measure over 8 weeks as a faculty. If you can invest more, better. There are faculty who come full time. We have one with us on this program. Is Sharmila here? I don't see her. So Sharmila might want to share your experience. One of your colleagues is doing this with us, not with one team, but with 2 teams. So she's spending 48 hours a day with us.
Okay.
So Dr. Parve, I don't know if that answers your question. You need to invest time, not money. You will need to invest your expertise and your emotions in this, and you need to invest some time because your team will need you. Right?
Okay,
And unless you spend.
What I understood that if the startup is going to start from VIT, perhaps I don't have to invest anything. But if somebody wants to go for one startup, I mean, who will be investing the fund? I mean, individual.
It's a generic question. So a startup needs funding of many kinds, right? When you do research, who's funding your research? Where does it come from? It comes from the university. Maybe it's a sponsored project. Maybe it's this. Now you have an idea and an invention that comes out of it. Do you have an IP policy in the institute? I understand you have one now. How does that allow that IP to get commercialized? Who owns the IP, right? What rights do individual, the inventor, the developer and the entrepreneur, let's say a startup, how do they share? So your IP policy should take care of it. Now you need money. So who invests money in that? Now startup needs money to start. You need an investor. So either the investors have to invest. You can't be a founder if you don't have money, right? Or you have your sweat equity and somebody values your sweat so much that they are willing to put some money, top dollar money on it. But you need people, you need money for a startup. And money will come if the startup has legs. This program enables you as a founder and our co-founders to figure out what the prospect is and then communicate to outsiders that this has strength. This is worth investing in. How much money it needs, who invests, those are matters of detail. I don't have a generic answer, but I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it's answered. Just one last questions like that. How long we are going to, I mean, if it is a startup, it will be having the production unit. I mean, it will be produced, it will sell the product to the market. Now, how long we are going to have the status of startup? Where is that recognition of startup is going to end?
There is no hard and fast rule. Startup is mainly give you a mentality, right? It's right. There is a legal definition to it. The government of India has even given a definition. You can't be more than 5 years old as a startup, before they can fund it or something like that. But startup is a mentality that you are in an urgent mode to get going with. You have the energy and passion. You want to become big, right? You can't become big by being a startup. Right? You can become big by getting customers who then buy from you and you set up a factory or you scale in some way. At some point of time, you'll become a small company. Then you'll become a medium company. Then you'll become a large company. Somewhere this tag drops off. When does a boy become a man? When does a girl become a woman? You have your definition. There's a biological age, there's a physical age, there's a mental age, there's an intellectual. So all of those are different. Likewise for a startup.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Raghunath Rao. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? So Raghu, until others ask, I have one question. So when you started the first cohort or the first few cohorts, I understood it was heavily faculty driven, and at that point of time, even faculty members were expected to go to market, interact with customers, and so later this entrepreneurial lead came in, and the current cohorts focus more from the faculty as research advisors. So would you like to elaborate how this transition took place? Because this is a nice shift. Most faculty members, if they are very strong in their forte, R&D and research, they may not have the appetite to go to market, meet customers. But somehow you felt this segue of entrepreneurial leads come in, and they fill that position. And it also eventually helps the company to have a strong co-founding teams. So would you like to touch upon it, elaborate a bit? So that some of the faculty members, they could also start planning who to engage as entrepreneurial leads.
Two things. From the get-go, I think there's a misconception, or maybe I miscommunicated. From the beginning, we are very clear the role of a faculty is different from that of the entrepreneur lead. The faculty is the repository of knowledge and technology and science. We don't expect the faculty, never ever, even in our first cohort, first startup. Faculty is faculty. We never expected the faculty to become an entrepreneur. So that's not correct. The faculty remains that and remains as the technical guide. He or she is the biggest expert around. What we would like is for the faculty to pick up the entrepreneurial knowledge and capabilities, not necessarily to become a business person, right? But to become more entrepreneurial, understand what is the mindset change required for a student to become an entrepreneur or a researcher to become one, who could be their students, and they could help make that transition. That's really what we want, and fire up other people and or design research projects accordingly so that they're more amenable to creating impact in the marketplace. That's the objective that we expect of faculty. It has always been the same.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. So, are there questions?
Maybe I'll do one thing as other people. Rajiv, can you share the videos from our website of, let's say, Sanjay Mahajani or Satya Chakravarti? Maybe so you can start with Sanjay. You start with Sanjay.
Yeah, sure.
Sanjay Mahajani.
Yeah, sure.
So what we'll do is we will play a video of Professor Sanjay Mahajani, who was a faculty member, and he was running the Tata Center at IIT Bombay. When we ran a cohort, he brought 4 or 5 teams to us as a faculty lead. So he remains a faculty. He's not an entrepreneur, but he is encouraging commercialization of research. So here is experience.
So I'll just share my screen. Yeah.
Rajiv, it's not audible.
Sorry, I have to disconnect my headphones. Just 1 minute.
Just reboot and start from the beginning if you can, please.
Yeah. Oh, there is some.
I think you need to tick the box before you share.
Oh.
Before you share.
What is the box I need to tick?
Let me just try it without sharing.
No, there's something called share sound. You have to click the share sound box.
The sound
Okay,
is
Rajiv,
shared.
let me try. Rajiv, let me try then.
Sure. No, it's not happening. Okay, you try.
I hope the video will be seen.
I participated in the first cohort.
Is this audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
6 months back, and then I participated in the first cohort that happened about 6 months back, and then the latest one, the one that is concluding today, I participated again. So that itself says how useful this particular program is. I had one team in the first cohort. Now in this cohort, I have 2 of them, and the result is really fascinating. Whether we are right for startup or not, this program has really helped us a lot. So that's why, like, 2 of my teams, one of them has said that fine, they're going to go for a startup because they see a clear case there, and the other team is saying that, oh, we want to wait. And in both the cases, I feel it's a success for. So, so that's what I've learned from this particular program. In terms of what it can do as a part of ecosystem, I feel that it is not an optional thing; it is mandatory. Because, like, when somebody comes with an idea, that need is something that is perceived, hypothesized, okay, and we need to validate it. Okay, and that validation, in fact, we have been talking about it in Tata Center for quite some time, that a faculty group coming to us with an idea and center funding that particular project, the first thing that a group should do is to do validation of the need or assessment of the need and come back to us saying that yes, you have to go ahead. It's good to say it on paper, but we didn't have a methodology. Okay, we didn't have a algorithmic approach, structured approach, and I feel Incubate has given that approach. Of course, this program comes out with the self-realization. Okay, nobody tells here that your idea is good or bad, okay, or what you're doing is good or bad, right? The students, the team members themselves would come back at the end of the day saying that, yeah, I realize now this is the way to go, this is not a way to go. So that's where the success of this program is. So this is, as I said before, like, this is not an optional thing. If you really want to build an ecosystem for innovations, entrepreneurships and all, this is something that is must. So thank you very much again.
So was that audible and clear to people? So you have this professor who used to run, Professor Sanjay Mahajani, who used to run the the Tata Center at IIT Bombay. And some of his ventures have been, they've started moving ahead now. They've gone to the incubator at Sign and all that. I can play more. I mean, there are lots of facts. You can go to our website and see it. You know, I don't need to play it for you here. But it gives you a sense of, you know, this is a new area. This is outside your comfort zone. Therefore, the trepidation is understandable. But that's the way it is. Entrepreneurship is a different ballgame. And the realization that faculty want to create impact. They want to do it in a difficult area and where failure rate is high, to take the appropriate logical steps and go ahead and be prepared for it. You know, if things don't work out, make the changes and then try again. That's really what this program is about.
Professor Salim, do you have a question? So fine, Mr. Raghu. Yeah, Professor Salim, would you like to go ahead?
Hello. It was a very interesting and informative talk. I don't have any specific question but I would like to comment that it was a very interesting and useful talk for all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ahmed. That's good to know. We would like, as I said, we have like applications from BIT, from you. Some of you have, I think, started to apply or applied. We'll keep it open for another, the rest of the week. Please do send in your applications so that we can consider.
Thank you, Mr. Raghu, for this excellent session and quite informative. And thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks to Rajiv also for being part of the session. So we will share the recording with the